Have you ever wondered why certain parts of our nation's history are kept hidden from the public eye? Join us as we lift the veil on the government's deeply unsettling experiments on African American communities, a truth too shocking to be taught in schools. Greetings and welcome. I'm Carolyn A. from GettingToTheRoots.com, ready to empower you with tips, resources, and tutorials to craft a legacy that's uniquely yours. Let's discover the unique role your family has played in history. Together, let's uncover the stories that have shaped us, celebrate the diversity of our heritage, and ensure that the legacies of our ancestors are remembered and cherished forever. Let's dive in. 1. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study. In 1932, the U.S. government launched a horrifying study in Tuskegee, Alabama. Under the guise of treating bad blood, a common term for various ailments at the time, they deliberately withheld treatment from 399 black men known to have syphilis. Their true aim was to observe the disease's progression. The men were deceived, believing they were receiving proper care. This deception continued even after penicillin. The cure for syphilis became widely available. Denying treatment for research purposes, especially when effective cures existed, was a blatant violation of human rights and a dark stain on American medical history. This experiment was a colossal betrayal of trust. The men, believing they were receiving treatment for bad blood, unknowingly participated in a horrific scheme. The truth's revelation shattered lives, not just for the men, but for their families and the entire African American community. It sowed deep distrust in the medical system, a distrust that lingers even today. Many hesitate to seek medical care, fearing a repeat of such exploitation. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study's cruelty extended far beyond the men themselves. By leaving them untreated, the study directly facilitated the spread of syphilis. Their partners faced a heightened risk of infection, and children could be born with congenital syphilis. This approach stood in stark contrast to treatment practices for other races, where access to effective cures helped control the disease's spread. The Tuskegee experiment remains a stain on medical ethics, a reminder of the devastating consequences when research disregards basic human decency. If you find value in this video, show your support by liking it, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. This aids in improving our visibility through YouTube's algorithm. Now, let's get back to our video. 2. The Mississippi Appendectomy. The term Mississippi appendectomy refers to a deeply unethical practice where black women were sterilized without their consent or knowledge. This was often done under the pretext that they were undergoing an appendectomy or other routine surgical procedures. Essentially, these women went into surgery thinking they were receiving treatment for one condition, only to come out having been deprived of their ability to have children. This practice was alarmingly common in the 20th century and targeted African American women, reflecting the broader issues of racial and gender discrimination in medical treatment. The long-term consequences of these involuntary sterilizations were devastating. Physically, the women harmed by this practice lost their reproductive rights and capacities, often without even realizing it until they later tried to conceive. Psychologically, the impact was equally harmful, leading to feelings of betrayal, depression, and a profound loss of agency over their own bodies. 3. The Holmesburg Prison Experiments. Between 1951 and 1974, at Holmesburg Prison in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a horrifying injustice unfolded. Prisoners there were subjected to a series of gruesome and risky tests on their skin. The prison administration allowed researchers to use inmates as human guinea pigs, exposing them to dangerous substances like dioxin, a super toxic chemical, herpes viruses, and even cancer-causing agents. All in the name of observing what would happen. Imagine someone applying harmful substances to your skin just to see how it reacts, without your full understanding of the risks involved. That's the nightmarish reality these prisoners faced, and it raises serious ethical concerns about how they were treated. The main issue with these experiments wasn't solely the hazardous materials being tested, but also the lack of transparency about what was being done and the associated risks. Imagine being offered a new snack without being warned. It might make you seriously ill. That's unacceptable because everyone has the right to fully understand what they're consenting to, especially when it involves potential harm. This situation exploited the prisoner's vulnerability and lack of power to refuse participation. 4. The Cincinnati radiation experiments. The 1960s saw a disturbing misuse of science in Cincinnati. Doctors carried out several experiments that flagrantly transgressed ethical standards because they were curious about how radiation affected the human body. Patients battling cancer, trusting their doctors, were unknowingly subjected to excessive radiation exposure. This wasn't a treatment. It was a calculated risk, a means to an end. The doctors prioritized learning about radiation's impact on soldiers and astronauts over the well-being of their patients. This pursuit of knowledge, however, came at a grave cost. The people in these experiments were mostly poor and lacked access to quality healthcare options. Desperate for treatment, they placed their trust in these doctors, believing they were receiving genuine cancer care. Tragically, this trust was shattered. Instead of treatment, they became unwitting subjects in a dangerous experiment. Excessive radiation exposure, far exceeding any therapeutic benefit, puts their health at further risk. Deceived and unable to give informed consent, they endured not only physical harm but also the emotional trauma of betrayal. The very people entrusted with their care had violated that trust, subjecting them to a terrifying and potentially life-threatening ordeal. 5. The Fernald School experiments. The Fernald School in Massachusetts harbors a dark secret. During the 1940s and 50s, what was supposed to be a haven for boys with learning disabilities became a site of horrific experimentation. Unaware and vulnerable, these boys were unknowingly subjected to radioactive materials in their food. Scientists, seeking to understand the body's processing of radiation, exploited these children. The revelation of these experiments incited widespread outrage and indignation. The fact that children who deserve protection and support were exposed to potentially harmful substances without their parents' consent sparked intense debates and discussions across various media platforms. 6. Henrietta Lacks and the HeLa cells. Henrietta Lacks, a black woman battling cancer in the 1950s, unknowingly became a medical marvel. During her treatment, doctors discovered her cells possessed an extraordinary ability. They thrived outside the body, a rarity at the time. These immortal cells, later named HeLa after Henrietta Lacks, became a scientific cornerstone. HeLa cells played a pivotal role in developing the polio vaccine, cancer treatments, and countless other breakthroughs, revolutionizing modern medicine. However, a glaring ethical question remains. Were doctors justified in using Henrietta's cells without her knowledge or consent? Even for such advancements, Henrietta and her family never knew her cells were being used in research around the world. This raises a complex ethical dilemma: progress versus patient rights. Henrietta Lacks' legacy has significantly influenced modern medical research and the protection of patient rights. Today, laws mandate that patients must be informed and consent prior to the use of their cells or tissues in research. Her story highlights the critical importance of bodily autonomy and the need for informed consent. 7. South Carolina irradiation experiment. In the 1960s, a disturbing experiment unfolded at the Charleston Hospital in South Carolina. Patients, predominantly African Americans, were subjected to radiation exposure without full comprehension of the proceedings. The purported aim was to study radiation's effects on the human body, particularly in advancing cancer treatments. However, those involved were unaware of the experiment's true nature, believing they were undergoing routine medical procedures rather than being test subjects. This experiment hurt the patients in a couple of big ways. Physically, being exposed to radiation can be dangerous. It can make you really sick or even cause more health problems down the line. However, there is also the hurt that results from lying, especially by doctors who you should be able to trust. These patients were used for science without their okay, and that's a big ethical no-no. It shows a lack of respect for their rights and dignity. 8. Lead poisoning studies in Baltimore. In Baltimore, researchers looked into how lead paint affects children. Lead paint is dangerous because eating or breathing in its bits or dust can make you sick. They picked homes with lead paint in Baltimore and watched the children living there to see how lead affected them. They wanted to understand how bad lead is and what amount of lead in the blood is safe. But joining the study in Baltimore hurt the children. Being around lead can cause problems like trouble learning, behaving badly, and hurting your kidneys. Getting exposed to lead during the study could cause health problems for these kids that last their whole lives. A pledge for the future? In unveiling the hidden chapters of our history, we've witnessed the depths of injustice faced by African American communities at the hands of those who were trusted to protect them. Each story, from Tuskegee to Holmesburg, from the fields of Mississippi to the classrooms of Fernald, echoes with the pain of the past, but also with the hope for tomorrow. This hope lies in our hands. It is up to us to apply the lessons from these difficult times to a future in which the pursuit of progress does not jeopardize anyone's rights. Let this video serve as a beacon, illuminating the path toward a society where ethics, equality, and respect for all life are paramount. By educating ourselves and others, and demanding accountability and change, we pledge to build a future that honors the dignity of every individual. Your engagement and activism are vital. It underscores the importance of understanding and taking charge of your medical care. By being informed and actively involved in healthcare decisions, individuals can safeguard their rights and prevent similar injustices from happening in the future. Let's unite in this pledge, ensuring that the horrors of the past are never repeated. To further educate yourself on this important topic and take action to support advocacy efforts related to medical ethics and patient rights, I encourage you to explore the following resources. Medical Apartheid by Harriet Washington. Bad Blood, The Tuskegee Experiment by James H. Jones. Medical Ethics, A Brief Intro by Tony Hope. National Archives and Records Administration, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the National Institutes of Health. That's a wrap on Government Secrets, the hidden experiments on African Americans. If you found value in what we shared today, please show some love by clicking the like button, spread the word by sharing this video, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Let's keep this conversation going in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Peace and love.